Welcome back everyone to another Final Fantasy TCG card chat episode. Now today I kind of wanted to do a video on a topic I've been meaning to talk about for a while. If you've been following my card chat series, one of the ones I did a while back was on what Square Enix can do to really make Final Fantasy TCG explode. I covered things like adding promo cards with actual numbered Final Fantasy games, focusing the marketing on collectors and not players, and kind of things of that nature. But on that note, I kind of thought that it's really not Square Enix's sole responsibility to help this card game grow and become a huge hit. A lot of that kind of depends on us as the Final Fantasy TCG collectors and players and community overall. So today I wanted to talk about what we can do as a community to help Final Fantasy TCG really take off. Now, as always, I have a mindless task. I only really do these videos when I have to do something else. Today's mindless task is I'm kind of trying to sort my foils, my Opus 4 foils from my case opening in some kind of semi-order so I can kind of put them into storage or sell them or whatever. So I wanted to make this video because, as you all know, one of my main reasons for making this channel at all was to put Final Fantasy TCG content out there because I thought this card game was really awesome, and it was really discouraging to me that it was so difficult to really find any resources on it online. And I wanted to say that since I've done so, I've seen a lot of other websites spring up, and that really makes me happy. I think there's like several, like maybe a dozen or more pretty decent Final Fantasy TCG websites now, and that really gives me a lot of hope for the game. So number one is people need to start creating more Final Fantasy TCG content online. And I'm not saying you need to make your own YouTube channel or website or whatever, but for the ones of you who actually have an interest in that, like your web developers or anything like that, one of the ways to get people to join the game, like I always said, is to make it like kind of create the impression that it's a big thing, you know, like let's say that you were looking for something to buy, like a new product or something. Like, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're probably just going to Google it, right? You're just going to go on Google and try and figure out like more information about it, reviews, things like that. And what's your immediate impression if nothing comes up? It's probably that no one's using it and that it's a piece of crap, right? Regardless of whether or not that's true, that's the first impression you're going to get. And in today's world, impressions are reality. I mean, perception is reality. So if there's no content out there for Final Fantasy TCG, for everyone who isn't currently invested into it already, their immediate assumption is going to be, I don't want to get into this because it doesn't seem like very popular at all. Clearly no one's interested in this thing. And obviously I don't think that's true. All of you guys who are watching this channel, or most of you guys watching this channel, probably don't think that's true. But that's the impression that's out there if there's no Final Fantasy TCG content. So for all you guys who are interested in web development, writing, whatever, make sure that, you know, or not make sure, but try and create more Final Fantasy TCG content out there. I would love it if I could like go on YouTube and type in like Final Fantasy TCG deck ideas. And to be honest, I mean, some do exist, but I'd love to see just thousands of videos pop up with people discussing decks, videos of people playing each other. You know, those kind of things are really helpful for new players to kind of get a hang of the game, because really diving into a new TCG is kind of intimidating if you've never played before, especially if you want to play at the LGS, because honestly, if you guys have ever played TCGs before, I don't know what the hell it is about LGSs. Like, you would think that like nerdy people are nice. Some of them are real dicks. So like if you don't know what you're doing when you go play for the first time, it's actually kind of shocking how mean people can be, where they'll be like, oh, like you didn't do that right. Oh, and they'll get all like, they'll complain and stuff. And a lot of them aren't very hygienic and whatever. But it's kind of upsetting because, you know, sometimes it's oddly intimidating, even though most of them are very rarely physically intimidating. But just because some people are so toxic towards people who don't know how to play the game, and like it's just like, hey man, like I'm trying to learn. I just started. Like I'm not. Don't expect me to be an expert. But I think having a lot of content out there for new players will really help with that learning curve if they can kind of go to the LGS with all the basics figured out. And a lot of things like being able to watch other people play is really a fantastic resource for things like that, and really takes kind of the edge off of kind of that stress factor. So number one is basically, if you have the means to do it, and this is going to be a very relatively low population of you who has the time or the skills or whatever to do this. If you do happen to have it, try and create Final Fantasy TCG content on the web to kind of, spread this game. Now, number two is kind of similar, but it kind of takes the onus of creating this content out of your hands, because I do understand that that's not really plausible for many of you. So number two is simply to join the existing Final Fantasy TCG communities. It's actually quite shocking to me when I talk to people who are really gung-ho about Final Fantasy TCG that so many of them don't even know that there's a Reddit for Final Fantasy TCG, or that there's a big Facebook group for Final Fantasy TCG. And it's very important that you join these things. And even if you don't plan to contribute to it, although I think you should, if you don't plan to contribute to it, just joining is helpful, because again, it goes back to my earlier point. When people are trying to get into Final Fantasy TCG, and, what's the younger generation particularly, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to look on whatever, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram. I don't really use that thing, or any of those are like Pinterest. Like, I don't even know how those things work. But Facebook and Reddit are, as far as I know, two big things still. And what happens if they say, oh, I want to play Final Fantasy TCG? And they join the Facebook group, or not even join, they look up the Facebook group and it has 5 members. They're going to say, this is a waste of time. I'm just going to stick with Magic the Gathering. But what if they found the group and it's 50,000 members strong, and there's people commenting all the time, setting up events, inviting people over? That's going to do a hell of a lot for getting new players into the game, because they're going to be like, oh, shit, this is sweet. Like, looks like there's a lot of people playing. Looks like they have a really mature, like, grown-up community with a lot of players playing and actively playing. And it sounds like I could really have a lot of fun doing this thing. And I think it's important that we kind of foster that by having everyone join these communities and kind of contributing regularly in terms of, writing things, sharing news that you find out about. If you played in a tournament and someone destroyed you with this new and interesting deck, kind of bring that up and talk about it. All these things are great for the community, and I'm not really sure what it is, but I think, I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but for whatever reason, a lot of people that I've talked to who are collecting lots of these cards, even playing regularly in tournaments and things like that, for whatever reason, they don't seem to be active participants in the Final Fantasy TCG groups. Now, there are some people who do kind of do this regularly. I once like Yuna Young Team and those people. Like, there are online groups out there who have built up really nice communities. But I think there's like this shadow group of Final Fantasy TCG players who have pretty much just stayed out of all online groups regarding Final Fantasy TCG. And if you know these people and you play with these people regularly at the LGS and stuff, just go ahead and prod them to kind of join these groups, because it'll really do a lot for the visibility of Final Fantasy TCG. And, whatever, if they post something, maybe their friends will see it and be like, what is Final Fantasy TCG? And when it comes to marketing, it's always exponential, the group, right? Because if one person, exposes it to 10 people and they expose it to another 10 people, like, that's just how it works. So number two is to join and contribute regularly to the existing Final Fantasy TCG groups out there. Let's make the Final Fantasy TCG fans Facebook group like 10, 20, 30, 100,000 strong. And you guys are going to be shocked by how many more people show up to the LGS, how much faster the prices of these cards start going up. If no one's playing or collecting the cards, eventually the card game will die. And honestly, it should, because that would mean that no one's interested. And I've always said that I think a lot of people would be interested. They just need to find out about it. And it can't just be Square Enix's job. I mean, realistically, they're the most financially motivated, so it is their job. But a lot of it has to do with us. Magic the Gathering was built off the backs of its players. I mean, Wizards of the Coast is obviously deserves a lot of the credit, but it's the community that really made the game what it is. At the end of the day, the cards are just cards with pictures on them, and the MTG community really came together, and now they're like 10 million strong. Like who knows? There's so many players, and they built a robust community, and they have so many online resources. They even have like a dedicated finance community, like MTG Finance Reddit or something, that I want to say is like 30 to 50,000 strong. There's 50,000 people who are just interested in Magic the Gathering finance, so there's got to be well over 1 million who are actual players. And I think Final Fantasy TCG, like, who knows if it could ever reach those numbers. My personal guess is it won't. But if we get a tenth of those numbers, that's probably 10 times bigger than it is today. And I'm sure all you players out there want to see more, like attendance at your LGS store, see more competition, see more deck ideas, things like that. So make sure you do whatever you can to promote the game by kind of sharing information about the online resources with all your friends wherever applicable. Now, the last one is kind of more direct. So the first two are kind of more like marketing things where, you're creating content or sharing content online. The third one is just to share it directly with your friends. Like, I think that's how I got into Magic the Gathering. People literally gave me cards, and I thought, oh, these are kind of cool. Like, this was back when I was in like middle school, but people gave me cards, and it kind of spurred me to buy cards on my own. I want to say that my friends hadn't given me my first few Magic cards and played a game with me, I would have never gotten into it. I mean, back then the internet wasn't really even that big of a thing, so I would have never found out about it. I certainly never would have bought it. But because my friends introduced me to the game, that's kind of how I got into Magic the Gathering like almost 2 decades ago now. And I think Final Fantasy TCG players have to kind of do more of that exact same thing. I mean, I've given away at this point literally hundreds of cards. Like, I'll be honest, not like high value. Like, I wasn't like giving away like Cloud A001s or anything. But, when people kind of ask me about the game, I've given away like starter decks because I used to buy starter decks just to get it. If you watch my videos, those like the versions of the cards where the template here kind of changed and stuff, that was the only reason I wanted the starter decks. And then the rest of them I would just give away because I didn't give a crap about them. And, I've given away maybe even more than 1,000 cards at this point, mostly commons and rares and heroes. I don't really think I gave away many legends. But yeah, I mean, if you have a lot of cards, if you bought a lot of booster boxes, and let's put this into perspective. If you buy a booster box, you're going to get more than a play set of most commons. So, I mean, if you're a player and you get 8 of the same common in a booster box, there's really nothing you can do with the other, like, 5 of them, right? Like, you can't put them in a deck unless you're just, like, keeping them in a binder or something. Just give them away. Like, give them to your friends and say, hey, check out these cards. If you want to play, hit me up and, we'll go to one of our friends' house and set up a little tournament and you can kind of play. We'll give you like a starter deck or whatever. This is how you get people interested in playing the game. Like, most people, when it comes to TCGs, very rarely do they just kind of seek it out on their own and kind of just find it. For the most part, I want to say, like, unlike gaming, like video gaming, where everything's downloaded now and online and stuff, trading card games still remain a very physical, kind of face-to-face interaction thing. So, unsurprisingly, a lot of the community was built on kind of meeting with people. I mean, it's really not that surprising of a concept, right? When you have a game where you have to play in person, a lot of the introductions are done in person. So, yeah, I mean, I think that one's pretty straightforward. Just don't be shy. I mean, there's really no reason to be shy with your personal friends anyway, right? So, if you have friends that are interested in TCGs and are playing Magic the Gathering or whatever, kind of suggest that they play Final Fantasy TCG. Like, at least let them give it a try. They might not like it. They may end up playing and say, hey, this is just a crappy version of Magic the Gathering. This game sucks. I never want to play it again. Fine. At least they tried it. Like, if they try it, if 1 million Magic the Gathering players try this game, at least a handful of them are going to become converts, right? It's better to expose it to 1 million people and have 900,000 people say they're not interested than to not even attempt to reach out to them at all. So, yeah, I think that last point is just to try and share it with your friends. So, just to quickly sum up this video, the things you can do are: one, create content only if you're in a position to do so. I mean, and if you really enjoy doing things like this. Obviously, I'm not saying, oh, if you're not making websites or YouTube videos on Final Fantasy TCG, you're not supporting the game. That's not what I'm saying. Just if you feel like it and you enjoy playing with your friends or something, just put a crappy camera over it and record you guys playing, post it on YouTube. Don't bother editing it. Any content is good content. Number two is to join the communities. That one's so easy that I see no reason for you guys not to do it. I'd say the main ones to join are: join the Final Fantasy TCG fans Facebook group, join the marketplace one. I mean, if you guys are actual avid players, you can get some great deals on that Facebook group, so there's no reason not to join it anyway. You might pick up some cheap cards and build out decks at a bargain compared to buying from like TCG Player or whatever, especially because these sellers will pass along the fee savings to you. Remember, if you sell on TCG Player or eBay, like I do, you have to pay a crap ton of fees every time, and it really adds up quick. So buying directly from players saves them a lot of money. It'll save you a lot of money. And number three is just to share the game with your friends. Give them free cards, like especially low value cards where it's costing you nothing to give them away anyway. Like the bulk rate for a common is probably like a penny, if that. You have nothing to lose by giving away a bunch of commons. And in the long run, it might actually be an even better investment for you, because if enough players come in and print runs for certain sets end, the price of some of your cards may go up if more players join the community. So anyways, I think I'll wrap up this card chat with that. Sorry for the lighting. I haven't really been paying attention to the camera. I realize that the lighting is probably pretty terrible, but this is just about the verbal side of it anyway. So anyways, gonna wrap this up. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next card chat. Take care, guys.